a legend. And I say a legend. Joey, we got a couple undefeated fighters, the big Nigerian nightmare. We've got a couple guys who hate each other coming up in UFC 253. What do you got for us this weekend?
Well, second time in history, two undefeated fighters are fighting for a championship here. It's a great card. There's a lot of unknowns, though. I mean, I have sheets and sheets of notes going through about, all the fights on this card. Adesanya, 19-0. Looked phenomenal. He's looked great, but he's got his flaws. Now, Costa, 13-0, and, everybody's breaking his fight down, and I like to say I'm not going to coach Bagels it and give you the X's and O's, but I do see some vulnerabilities here for Adesanya. He's a great counter puncher. Costa might chase him around all night, get exhausted by probably the third round if he's swinging at air, and Adesanya will pick him off. But I saw a video a while ago. I watched Chris Cyborg Santos. I watched her fight in a Muay Thai fight and lion fight, and I saw this fight where she got knocked down like 4 times and got up. She lost the fight. She got her butt kicked. Now I was going back through Adesanya's fight footage. And he's 75-5 as a kickboxer, but I saw him get knocked pretty cold with a left hook. And that's the same left hook that Paulo Costa throws. And he's going to throw that, and he's going to throw it, and he's going to keep throwing it until he hits something or until he gasses and gets stopped. I think that he's got a shot here. I think he's got a puncher's chance, maybe better than a puncher's chance. I think it's a live dog. Whether it wins or not, I don't know.
Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but how long ago was it he got knocked out? Did he get knocked out with the left hook? And how long ago was it?
Oh, I think it was 2017. I mean, there's been some time between it, but it was also with gloves on, maybe an 8-ounce glove, a 10-ounce glove. And against a Brazilian nonetheless, Alex Pereira, or I think that's what his name was. But, I think that fight, if I had to bet that fight, Paulo Costa. But these both dogs are in these title fights, Dominic Reyes against John Blachowicz, the Polish fighter. Reyes coming off that loss to John Jones where he looked good in defeat. People said he won the fight. I didn't think he won the fight. I think John Jones is one of those guys that he fights to the level of his opposition. Not to talk about Jones, but, I mean, he didn't beat Gustafsson by much. People thought Gustafsson beat him, then he kicked Gustafsson's butt. Thiago Santos was another guy that John Jones fought, and, people said, well, Thiago could have won that fight. And they said the same about Reyes. Reyes is coming off that loss, which is arguably his best performance because he beat Chris Weidman before that. I think Weidman was up at heavyweight. And, I mean, I'm not going to put a lot of stock in that because Weidman is Weidman. He's long in the tooth and he's a middleweight. But Blachowicz is coming off 3 wins. He's got some momentum going. And I tell you what, I think that John Blachowicz can catch Dominic Reyes. I think Reyes is going to try to box him and stay on the, again, I'm not going to X and O it and coach Bagels it, but I think John Blachowicz has a legitimate shot to win this fight. As both of these fights probably don't go the distance. This card here in Dubai, one thing about it, we saw back in July, they went to Dubai, smaller cage. Everybody said, oh, there's going to be a ton of knockouts. And there was actually more decisions than stoppages. It was just a freak thing. I think this card, I look at it and I say to myself, Sean Young in the beginning probably goes over. Eubanks and Vieira probably goes over. But the rest of these fights look to me like they're not going to go the distance. Adesanya's team, City Kickboxing, has got four guys going. Well, 3 other guys besides Adesanya going. It's got Brad Riddle, who's a phenomenal kickboxer, and he's doing very well now. He's got some momentum. He's fighting a Brazilian who's 21-2. And the Brazilian's got one of his 2 losses in the UFC. He's only fought in the UFC twice. One of those cases of a guy having a really good record, gets to the UFC and gets a reality check. I think Riddle's going to beat him. I don't, probably stop him. The other guy that's fighting out of New Zealand is Kai Kara France. I think that this kid, another guy who is moving up the rankings, I think that he's primed to win. The other New Zealand guy that's going to fight early in the card, which could, maybe cool some of the momentum on these guys' Jets, not New York Jets, but the Jets of momentum here.
They're frozen.
It's Shane Young. And I worry, I think Shane Young, I think that fight goes to decision. One of the fights that goes to decision. And, I don't think, I think it's very possible Shane Young doesn't win that fight. The judges are always, I said when we were in Dubai, geez, I can't wait to get back to the United States so we get some good judging. After, leaving a sour taste in my mouth in the United States, I can't wait for them to get back to Dubai. Easy, Coach. Don't say anything here about sour taste in mouth.
Not to interrupt you, Joe. Not to interrupt you, Joe. But when you're done talking, I got a serious question about how you handicap these UFC fights.
Okay, all right. And David Gladney is one of these judges. I don't know where Philly Godfather's going with this.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it, though. I want to hear it.
I want to hear it too.
All right.
Go ahead, Godfather.
Go. What is the question, PJ?
Well, it's a serious question about how you handicap these fights. Is it true that you like Costa? Because I've been going around the UFC chat rooms and everyone talks about how you resemble him and how you look like him and how you're built like him. Is that why you're leaning towards Costa? Do you include that in your handicapping?
You know, I never really thought about it that way, but it could be. Maybe I want to see someone that I resemble win. You know, it's just, it's subliminal. You know what? Call it what it is. You know, maybe that's it. But I do think he's got a shot here. You know, I knew I was going to catch a little slack today when I was wearing the purple shirt and PG came on with the butterfly collar and the Saturday Night Fever look. I knew I was going to catch some heat, but it's okay.
Hey, let's be honest. If Costa wins, he'll be the greatest looking champion in the history of the UFC. Let's just put that out there.
The public's going to be all over him, though, Joe. Ain't the public going to be all over Costa?
I don't know. I watch these preview shows and I don't like to watch them, but I watch them and I would look at it and I'd say, wow, Adesanya picks him up, and maybe I'm saying it like it's going to happen. I'd say Adesanya's going to pick him off, Costa's going to chase him, Adesanya's going to bust him up and eventually catch him and maybe cut him or stop him. But that's what I'm seeing in these preview shows. I'm seeing the style bender, Israel Adesanya really rock it. But I tell you what,
Joey.
I think
Joey, every week you go, I hate these preview shows. I don't watch these previews. And you watch every damn one. You're the show of record.
That's true.
You're the show of record.
As the fact checker on the podcast, that's true.
They are.
I mean, if you've never watched a UFC fight before, and you look at these two fighters, one looks so much more physically intimidating than the other guy. And if I never watched, if I'm betting for the first time, I'm betting on the guy that looks like Hercules than the skinny guy that's going to be running around, who's very accurate, who has a lot of punching power, who probably has the reach advantage, who might, I don't know, as of right now, I'm leaning the other way against you, Joe. But, I think the public's going to be all over Costa here, and that scares me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, Adesanya opened at $1.35, and he's minus 185 right now.
Wow.
And if that's an indication of the public money, $1.35 to 185. I mean, I think that, I think Israel Adesanya, another Nigerian champion, Kamaru Usman, Nigerian champion. Look, I've seen Adesanya do some really remarkable stuff. I saw him, you say not to back straight up from punches. I watched him do like a matrix back bend. You know what I mean? I mean, he's definitely skilled, and I can see Costa swinging it there. But I can also see Costa with a David Tua type crushing left hook knockout, while he's down on the cards.
Who's the better fighter on the floor? Who's the better fighter on the floor, Joe?
Oh, well, Costa's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but oddly enough, in his 13 fights, he's never attempted a takedown in the UFC.
Wow.
And I tell you one thing about Adesanya. Adesanya, and a lot of people don't notice, he has been in trouble on the ground. Melvin Gillard, in a fight before the UFC, took his back and almost had him. And Gillard, a decent wrestler, decent high school wrestler out of Louisiana, decent hands. But he did, Adesanya has weaknesses. And that's why I was making that Christine Cyborg, when I was talking about that, looking back, in hindsight, it's easy to say, I watched her get dropped in lion fight. And that's why Nunes was going to smash her. I see, I could see this happening here. I could see Costa putting putting something on him. And Costa goes to the body as good as anybody in the UFC.
Yeah,
but, it's funny that, and I know you hate the preview shows, but they're doing a great job of building it up, because when you've got two guys that legit have been talking trash for 2 years, look what the numbers did last week, guys, on the Covington fight. Say what you want about Colby Covington. They did over 1 million unique views on a fight that wasn't even on regular ESPN, that wasn't on pay-per-view, that you had to have ESPN Plus to see it. Over 1 million views? I mean, I think this could really be a big-time pay-per-view for the UFC this week.
This morning I was watching a sports show that Keyshawn Johnson, the morning sports show with Keyshawn.
Oh, so you're the one. You're the one. Oh,
yeah, I am the one. I'm the one. Well, Keyshawn's a former Jet. and a former USC player. Well, I'm a fan of both. That's where our
Could play
quarterback
for
came
the
from
Jets
USC.
now.
But
His daddy could play for the Jets.
Yeah.
I know I have to put my
Not
Jets.
alive, could play for the Jets. I'm alive.
You know what's crazy about the Jets? Sam Darnold had more passing yards last week. I think the Jets had more passing yards than the 49ers last week.
Well, that's
Wow.
that stat guy. How about those stat guys? You send limos for those guys when you're a bookmaker. You liars figure and figures lie. You can get math to do about anything. JBL can't, but most people can.
Ooh, oh, snap.
Abacus.
Oh, snap.
Abacus.
That was
Yes.
not nice. Joey, words hurt. Words
Yeah,
hurt.
but
Joey.
you know what? John Cena doesn't need to do that.
That's right.
Wow.
But
Cena's like
John
80
Cena
now,
does. Yeah.
Getting it from all sides.
Can we get him on the
I
show?
can't wait. What'd you say?
No, you can't get him on the show.
No.
When I was retired and he went and did movies, and I've never been in a movie, nothing.
Wasn't
Thank
he?
you, Johnny. I said the same thing about The Rock. Why aren't they taking care of you and me? They're
Didn't
not
Cena
taking
just
care
get
of
an
me and
Emmy
you.
or a Golden
Well, they
Globe or a
don't need
Academy Award?
JBL. They got Vince Vaughn.
One time, true story, one time there was one of the greatest Hollywood skits that me and JBL and John Cena were in together. You would have thought that would bonded us forever. Johnny had one of the great deliveries of Jack Nicholson I've ever seen.
You can't handle it.
You can't
Oh, that
handle
was
the truth.
awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah. Wasn't that awesome? It was awesome.
Yeah, it
And
was.
people
It
forget
really was.
I was the judge. I had one line. I was the judge. As
Not
Johnny
only
was ripping it off. One take. You actually were one take Johnny that time.
I
You
was
were one take Johnny. You were
Coach
one
was the
take
judge.
Johnny.
Coach
I was the
We
judge.
had to do one take, so I memorized the
I
entire.
thought you were a witness. I thought you were a witness against everybody. A judge.
Sorry, what did you say, Johnny?
I thought you were supposed to memorize the entire thing, so I thought we had to do it in one take. I didn't realize they're going to do it like it's parts. So when I did all
they're
the
like,
it goes,
you did.
well, we're done.
They spent like $300,000 on all this stuff, and it was done like that.
One take, done within 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. That was great. You can't handle the truth.
Hey, Joe, I got a question for you about handling the truth. Since me and Coach are no longer involved in the Rock Empire or the Cena Empire, and thanks to you, Godfather, we get reminded of it every single week.
Yes.
Ask you about a great name out there, Kazmat Shemaev. He's our man. When Philly Godfather first hit him, he said, with a name like that, this guy's going to be a badass. Is he ever? The fight that he had this past week just keeps knocking these guys out. Are they feeding him tomato cans, or is he that good?
You asking me or Philly Godfather?
I was asking you, but I think
Philly Godfather had picked him out of the, cherry picked him there, but he is legit. I think that this Chimaev is the second, I compared him. I said, this, 9-0 fighter now. And I said, I said, you know what? I remember when Floyd Mayweather was 9-0. Now, I don't think that Chimaev is going to end up 50-0 like Floyd Mayweather, but I do think he's going to go on a hell of a run in the UFC. I think that he is, I don't want to say the second coming of Khabib, because I think Chimaev has some other skills that Khabib might not. I think Chimaev hits a little bit harder. He proved that with Meerschaert last week, and they all bet Meerschaert. That fight opened up like minus 650. They bet him down to like minus 350. It was ridiculous line movement on that fight on the dog, and you saw how quick it lasted. I mean, it was just done. I mean, how long has he actually fought a combined full round in the UFC yet?
He's the quickest, 66 days, the quickest to 3 victories ever.
Yeah.
No, he has not fought a full round yet.
Did you guys see on Twitter this week what he said, what Chimaev said? And if it's true, I find it mind-blowing. He said that they've got every top 10 opponent, and nobody wants to fight him. And so he called out Damian Maia on Twitter today, and we're taping this on Wednesday, because all the top 10 guys, none of them want to fight him right now. That's what he said on Twitter.
Poor
who
Maia.
agreed to fight him, Coach? You know who agreed to fight him?
Who?
John Cena.
Let me tell you something. That going right now, I know from history, he better not do it. This is badly for him.
Chimaev's the real deal.
Everybody that's on the podcast.
Listen, I bust Joey's chops a lot, but when I first saw Kazmat, I mean, anytime I want confirmation, I thought he was great. I had a feeling he'd be great, but for confirmation, I always hit up Joey. I said, Joey, I think this guy's going to be good. And when he confirmed it, that's when I knew. I mean, between the name and that lip, the way it's cut down the middle. I don't think nobody's beat that
I
guy.
knew he was going to say that.
I don't think no one's beating that guy, man. And when you confirmed it, and you told, I mean, you're the man when it comes to UFC. That was it for me, man. I'm betting every time.
You got to say, I mean, he's no Paulo Costa. I mean, Costa's a ladies' man. Chimaev, he's kind of, he looks like a loner to me. I don't think he'll
be a ladies' man. You put that belt around his waist, he'll be a ladies' man. You watch. You just watch there in Vegas.
Put that bank account around him. He'll be all right.
Money changes the situation, right, Warren Hill?
All he talks about is a $50,000 bonus. Dana, give me that $50,000. Give me
paper?
that. Oh, okay. I'll give it to you.
Well,
I can't wait for Saturday's show, Joey. Don't give us any more. Let's wait for Saturday on Twitch. You've outdone yourself, Joey, this week on the podcast. I need you to relax.
I'm gassed right now.
I think you are.